What's up everyone, I'm B the Installer, and I have a question for you. Should you buy a Hisense or a TCL TV, or should you just stick to the other brands? We're going to talk about that today, and it's a complicated situation because I've had a lot of great Hisense TVs, I've had a lot of TCL TVs in the house as well, and good, bad, kind of the same thing with all TV brands. But they seem to be so much less expensive than some of the major brands. And in some cases, I find them to be very good. And a lot of people critique in the comments that they just would never buy one of those two. They're not familiar with them. Like, you've only seen a Hisense TV on an NBA commercial before, so you're not sure if it's a quality brand. So let's get into it. I'm going to be showing you some of these on Best Buy. You can also buy them on Amazon. I don't really care where you look at them or buy them, but it's just easier if I can visualize this. So the first TV that I want to talk about is the TCL Q7, which is a QLED TV from TCL this year. And I had this in the house, the 85-inch version, and I was very blown away with how good it is for the price point of an 85-inch being only $15.99 when it comes out early in the year. I mean, this is going to go down probably to $1,000 by Black Friday, which is kind of crazy for an 85-inch TV that is this good. Now, it's not a mini LED, it is a regular LED, but it's supposed to get up to 1,000 nits. It has 4 HDMI ports, 2 of them are 4K at 120 or higher, even 4K 144 hertz. And then now they have the third HDMI port being, the eARC, so you don't have to give up one of the gaming ports in order to game 2 consoles and connect to a soundbar. That's very cool, and I think a lot of other companies are going to follow that route. While I liked most everything about this TV, the only thing that was an issue was the dirty screen effect or just the panel uniformity in general. There seemed to be a little bit of yellowing on the top and the bottom of our panel specifically. Now, I don't know if that's, in all of them or likely just kind of a quality control issue, but that's one of the things to think about when you're buying a TCL, which is made in China, versus possibly a Sony, a Samsung, or an LG that are made in South Korea and Japan. Are there quality difference? Are there different standards? In general, I've had great luck with TCL and Hisense to date, and it's not certain that I'm always having great luck with other brands and from different areas. It's the same thing that I saw when I'm out in the real world installing TVs. It just seems to be kind of random when people have issues or not. But I don't have proof one way or the other. I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments below about which brands you've had issues with over the years. And while I like the Q7, I'm also very interested to see the U7K, which is Hisense's second best mini LED Google TV, for 2023. Now, I did see this at CES. I'm probably going to get it sooner than later. And I have seen the U8K, which is a step up. But overall, the U7H of last year was pretty impressive for the price as well, and had some of the same benefits as the TCL did, and also some of the same issues, whether it be uniformity or just quality control. Now, the U7K is mini LED, where the Q7 was not, and it's only $30 more. So that makes me wonder if this is going to be better or about the same as the second tier, TCL QLED. But for the price point of $729 for a 65-inch, I think it's something to consider. Now, the U7K does not go to 85-inch, so you only have 55, 65, and 75-inch. So if you're looking for the 85-inch, obviously you could probably go with that Q7, $15.99. If you want to get the largest Hisense U7K, it's $9.99. Both fantastic opportunities. And again, I expect this to be really good, and I'm hoping that I'll get it in the house sooner than later. Now, if you want to go to the step up for both brands, the top of the line for TCL this year is the QM8 QLED. The difference between this and the Q7 is that the QM8 is mini LED. It's supposed to be even brighter, up to 1500 nits, which is very bright for QLED, and I think more than enough for most people. And it's their top of the line product. And for $11.99 for a 65-inch, it's already about half the price of the competitors of a Sony, top of the line Sony, or top of the line Samsung, or all of the OLED TVs are going to be far more expensive than this. And now, again, I'll say I have not gotten this one in the house. I did see it at CES. I know a lot of people have reviewed it that I know. I've talked to them, and I'm going to be getting the 98-inch very soon. So definitely look out for that. But what I've seen from comments and reviews so far is that this TV is very close to a lot of the OLEDs in scenes with regards to its black level and to the detail. And I think it's impressed people a lot more than they thought. So you have that 65-inch for $11.99, and then you have 75-inch for $16.99, 85 for $2,100 for an 85-inch top-of-the-line TCL. That's very difficult to do in the other brands, and that's why I'm always thinking about whether a TCL or Hisense is worth your consideration, because this price point for a top-of-the-line QLED TV is pretty much unheard of, at least early in the year. I mean, down the road, Black Friday or further down the road, you might get some of the other Samsung top of the lines close to this range. But then I start to think, well, is a top of the line Samsung even better than this QM8? We have a lot of issues with panel uniformity with Samsung TVs. We'll get people complaining about the dirty screen effect or the lack of Dolby Vision. There's always a gripe about a company one way or the other, including the operating systems. People might like this Google TV more than the Tizen software that Samsung has. So again, it always comes down to what you guys think is best for you. But as a TV reviewer or someone that recommends TVs to people all the time, I would definitely consider different sizes of this QM8 just because you get the bang for the buck. And of course, they're coming out with this 98-inch, which is going to be available anytime now. And for me, I already have the TCL 98-inch R754, which is pretty nice TV for the size and the cost. Right now, I think you can get it for around $5,000. And it was so good that I ended up selling my 83-inch Sony OLED Master Series. So that's something that made me think, I should probably tell people about this, that if I'm, at home and I'm a reviewer and I got rid of one of the nicest TVs I've ever had at 83-inch because a 98-inch TV from TCL was better for our living room, I think that should actually make people stop and think, whether or not you could consider a brand like this, or just sizing up your TV in lieu of possibly a better overall product because the size, the value, and all you get from it. But I'm really excited for the 98-inch QM8 because it's the mini LED. It's going to be much brighter than the R754 that I have. And so very exciting times. I think it's going to be fantastic. And on the other hand, the Hisense U8K. Now that is the top of the line Hisense this year. I think they're going to have a UX85 that might or might not be available in the US. I'm not certain. I can't remember from CES, and I'm sure people can correct me in the comments. But the U8K is typically the general, best 4K version TV that they're going to have this year. And again, it's a mini LED, again with the Google TV, and I have had this in the house. And while I've seen some people compare it to the QM8 and say it's not quite as good in some instances, I was blown away by it. I thought it looked awesome. I thought it looked, as good as any QLED that I've ever seen in this house. So that makes me even more excited for the QM8 if it's even better. But the only thing that I had an issue with was when we were gaming or in some darker content, the brightness level seemed to dim quite a bit. So, depending on what you're watching, if you're watching sports, most movies and SDR, if you're just watching it off a cable box, I think you're going to be absolutely fine with this TV, especially since the 65-inch is $1049 right now, which is you're already saving $650, it says right here, from the $1699 price originally. And again, it only goes 55 up to 75. So you don't have an 85 or even a 98-inch option with this, but you do have the 75-inch and below, which for most people is probably going to be pretty good. Now you also have some options from TCL and Hisense that are not QLED TVs, but still pretty good. And one is the TCL S4. Now this is, a 4K TV. It just happens to not be a QLED, regular LED. Still has a Google TV. It is a 60 hertz panel. So you're probably down in features a little bit. You're down with regards to its, refresh rate, meaning that it might not motion smooth quite as good if you're watching some content. However, I think, history has shown me that these TVs are fantastic for a lot of situations. This is a 75-inch S4 for $549. I know a lot of the TVs in general that I talk about are out of people's price range, and I still appreciate you guys watching the videos, but I think this is something that is probably more in people's budget. 75-inch, to be able to put that in your house at the price of $549 is probably a lot more doable than a lot of the other ones that we talked about. And then we have the U6K from Hisense, which I actually really want to get this TV here because this is, again, a 60 hertz panel, but it is mini LED. So I'm kind of trying to figure out where I would go with this specific one. That is, it's still $600 though. So now we're talking about the third TV down on the tier for Hisense. So are you still going to pay $600 for a 65-inch TV if it's the third best Hisense? Remember, I was showing you the TCL second best TV, which is only $100 more at $699. So for me, that would be a tough choice. I probably would choose the Q7 because it's a 120 hertz panel. And this one does have the eARC on a separate port that isn't 4K 120 or even 4K 144 hertz on these panels, which can game a little bit faster yet. So I think I'd probably stick with this over the Hisense U6K, but it's still an interesting TV. And again, the price, is probably warranting that you give it a look. Now, what if you say that you're definitely not going to buy a Hisense or TCL? Is it because they're both, Chinese companies? Is that a problem with you? It may be, and I think a lot of people have commented on my channel that is an issue. They'd prefer to buy a brand from South Korea or Japan. I think that's a good argument to a degree. However, a lot of electronics are made in China, so I'm not the one that's going to judge where we get things. Now, the quality of the product, now that's also debatable. Is something you get from Japan going to be better than something you get from China? I think a lot of people would say that they probably have more faith in something like a Sony TV over a Hisense or a TCL, so that's one good argument. And again, same thing with the South Korean brands. There's a lot of brand loyalty for LG, same with Samsung. And I'm not one, again, to say that that's not the right opinion. I'm just saying that, you have to consider all these different factors when choosing something. So one TV that would probably be something a lot of people would consider instead of the top ones from TCL and Hisense is something like the X90L from Sony. Now, this is a little bit more expensive, but my good friend Stop the FOMO made a great video that just came out today on the X90L versus the TCL QM8 and the reasons that you might opt for something like this, which is just an LED TV over a mini LED from TCL, which is their 4th year of mini LED. And he went back and forth about the dimming zones on these two different TVs and that, this Sony LED has far less dimming zones, but it was able to do much better in the Starfield test because Sony is not concerning themselves with the perfect black level all the time because they want to get those specular highlights. Whereas the QM8, much more dimming zones, it's a mini LED, but it failed to showcase all the stars that were present, as you can see on the OLED TV that obviously has pixel level control, and which is the reason why it's nearly 3 times as expensive as either one of these other panels. So definitely check that video out because he's a really smart guy, has a lot of good info, but more or less the point is would you buy an LED TV from Sony that's $12.99, or would you stick to something like that QM8 that's $11.99, which is a mini LED from a brand that you may not be as familiar with, but basically competes with that Sony and has better black levels and not as much blooming as a Sony LED with only 80 dimming zones. So that's a difficult choice, but I'd definitely like to hear what you guys think about that. QM8 or X90L and why? I think that's a great discussion for the comments that people could really look at and help themselves decide which one of these they would buy. And then we also have something like an LG QNED 80. So I'm actually going to get this and I'm interested to see how this TV performs. But 75-inch for $1,500 is a little bit more expensive than we had talked about for the other Hisense and the TCL. 65-inch here is $11.99. So this QNED series is the exact same price as the TCL QM8. So I'd be interested as well to hear if you guys think that the QNED 80 can hang with that QM8. Is it going to be the gaming features that are typically great on LG, or other reasons will be brighter, not as bright? I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that one as well. And of course, we have Samsung that has made QLEDs for a very long time, and now they have the Neo QLEDs, the mini LED technology. Again, we talked about the fact that they're more expensive in general, but another problem is there's a lot of them. I mean, you got the Q60, the Q70, the Q80, we got the QN90, the QN95, the QN85. So, you have all these different models that you have to look through. And I think in general, it can just be a little bit confusing to try to figure out exactly which one you might want. I did go a little bit further here and show the Neo QLEDs, these mini LED ones. I mean, last year, you can get the 85-inch QN90B for $24.99. So obviously that's discounted because it's a year old. But would that be better than the QM8 for $21.99, which is a brand new product? I think people would have their opinions saying that Samsung might be a brand they're more familiar with. But a lot of people also would say they don't have Dolby Vision, which is something they would really like. And the QM8 happens to have Dolby Vision along with the Google TV OS against this Tizen software, which is, either your favorite or not your favorite. But there's a lot of other QLED TVs to look at. Here we have a 75-inch QN90C, which is this year's. And again, only at 75, it's $25.99. So the price point of these warrant, really good top quality. And do you always get that from Samsung? I'm not sure. It can be hit or miss, panel variation, a lot of different things, quality control. I think in general, my point is that it's not always perfect with the other brands either. So I don't think you should just take out a couple brands out of the running because, one or two people might have some anecdotal evidence that they've had issues or their panel went out early on a TCL or Hisense. But again, all these things are up for debate. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments. And of course, I wanted to go over the OLEDs really quickly because I don't want to leave things out. Obviously, if you're looking for one of the best TVs, I still think this LG C2 is one to get because, it's a year old, but I don't think there was a ton of upgrade to the C3. I do think it's better, but by how much? And you can get a 65-inch LG C2 OLED for $15.99. And we were talking about $11.99 and $12.99 for some of these other TVs. So if you're in that range and you're saying, well, is it the best option to get the QM8 or the X90L from Sony? I would definitely consider the LG C2 because for me, having perfect black levels and having good highlights and just that pixel level control with all the gaming features that a LG OLED has, definitely worth $15.99 for a 65-inch. And we also have Sony, great OLEDs as well. That one's actually the A80K from last year. But you can see here they have the new A80L, which is the upgraded version from last year. It's technically the second best OLED from Sony, but still pretty expensive right now at $32.99 for a 77-inch. I think both of those are fantastic, and the price will get better as time goes on. And then lastly, I did a video on the best TVs of 2023. Again, I was kind of thinking ahead a little bit because one of the best hasn't come out yet, but more or less the ones that I've been most impressed with in 2023 are the Samsung S95C OLED, QD OLED, fantastic. Still doesn't have Dolby Vision, but it looks like a nice 8K top model, really cool looking and, feature packed TV. So I would definitely consider this and target it towards Black Friday or get it now, because if you need a TV, you need one now. So go for it. The LG G3 was another one. Really impressed with this, with the MLA technology. I saw it in person. I saw both these in person. I was very impressed with both of them. This does have Dolby Vision. It is, meant to be on the wall. Looks really cool, nice and tight on the wall. We did a great installation at a client's house. Loved every minute of it, and I love this TV. And I'm going to have another video coming out eventually about this LG G3. And then lastly, I don't have the A95L, which is this year's, but I have A95K, last year's king of TVs, I guess you'd say, the best one. It's a couple $100 less than these other models. And at 65 or 55 inch, I think people would recommend it. The only issue is that they don't have the 77 inch in this model. So if you're going 65 or 55, both really awesome. If you need to get a brand new Sony, the A95L is supposed to come out within the next month. I will make a video on that on the 77 inch version. And I'm really excited for that. So definitely tune in for that. And if all this is still kind of confusing to you, you have the opportunity to go to BeTheInstaller.com, which is in the links in the description below with a lot of these TV links. And you can take this quiz. It'll ask you a few different questions and try to figure out what would be best for you with regards to price point, size, and all that. So you can take that. I hope that it helps you. Let me know and give me some feedback on if that helps you or not. And here's a couple more unboxing videos. I'll see you on the next one.